What's up, guys? This is Xander Bennett coming to you again with a top 10 video. This today is going to be the top 10 sword and shield cards from the new set. This is super exciting for me because we are in a new block, a new era of the trading card game. We got 10 Pokemon and 2 different honorable mentions to talk about. But before we go into the top 10, if you want to check out the places that support us, you can check out Flipside Gaming and use our code RareCandy to get 10% off for your purchase. And then you can go to PTCGO store. We have a code there as well. Now we're going to go straight into the top 10 and our 2 honorable mentions. Coming in as the first honorable mention on our list is Cinderace. Cinderace is a 170 HP fire Pokemon with the ability Libero. Once during your turn, when this Pokemon moves from your bench to the active spot, you may attach up to 2 fire energy cards from your discard pile to it. So this wording is new, so if it's a little bit confusing, I understand. But effectively, during your turn, if your active Pokemon retreats or you play a switch or anything like that, and Cinderace becomes your active, you can attach 2 fire energy from your discard pile to it. Then, for Fire Colorless, you have the Flare Striker attack, which does 190 damage, which is a ton of damage on a stage 2, but you have to discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. This card is insanely strong, and if you want to see it in action, you can go watch Eric's Testing Grounds video on the channel. He also has a deck profile for it, so if you're interested to see what a starter list looks like, you can go there. But the interaction between Jirachi and Escape Boards, allowing you to retreat into Cinderace and then attach the 2 fire energy to it, make this deck super consistent for its stage 2 deck, because Jirachi's inherently helping what you want to do. We also have Giant Hearth and Recycle Energy in Standard as ways to discard fire energy, get fire energy, or also just have more energy on your Pokemon. Since you have this colorless cost in Cinderace's attack, Recycle Energy helps out a ton. This deck could struggle with something like ADP, where they get to take extra prizes on your Cinderace because they'll do 180 damage exactly, but with 190 damage that you're doing, you're two-shotting almost everything in the metagame, and a Mallow and Lana is only going to soak up some part of the damage, so Cinderace ends up doing a ton of damage and is very strong, putting itself on the honorable mentions list here. Our second honorable mention on the list is another Stage 2, and that's Galarian Obstagoon. Galarian Obstagoon is a 160 HP Stage 2 Dark Pokemon with the ability Untamed Shout. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may put 3 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So if you've played in the past few years, you'll recognize this as the same ability that Crobat from Phantom Forces had. Crobat and Golbat were a very effective deck together, being able to knock out low HP basics or set up math with other powerful EXs in the format. So Galarian Obstagoon, with its ability on its own, will have no shortage of play. But then it also has this attack called Obstruct. For Dark Colorless, you do 90 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon. This is very strong right now because currently we are in a metagame where GXs and tag teams run around rampant. VMAXs are not basic Pokemon. We're going to talk about a few of those later on the list. So VMAXs will be able to get past this attack, but this effect is very strong. Currently, Obstagoon is seeing play in Japan alongside Sableye V, which the main attack on Sableye V that matters is Dark Crazy Claws. It does 10 plus 60 for each damage counter on your opponent's active. And then you can use the Galarian Zigzagoon, which puts 1 damage counter on something whenever you bench it, a very strong effect to help that even more. Shrine of Punishment will work on EXs and GXs. So Galarian Obstagoon is definitely a threat and is going, 3 damage counters doesn't sound like a lot whenever the GXs and VMAXs have so much HP, but with very strong attackers and a very good attack on its own, it does add up to be a definitely playable card, putting itself on the honorable mentions list here. Coming in at number 10 on our list, starting off our actual top 10, is Cinccino. Cinccino is a very talked about 90 HP Stage 1 Pokemon with the ability Make Do that'll sound really familiar. It says you must discard a card from your hand in order to use this ability. Once during your turn, you may draw 2 cards. Very clunky wording, but it's very similar to Trade. But then also, on top of a very powerful Trade ability, for 1 colorless, you have Energy Assist, which does 40 damage, and then you attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. So Cinccino ends up being a new support all-star for any kind of deck that wants to play it I think the first place that a lot of people are going are having Cincino replace Pidgeotto in the Pidgeotto control style decks, because discarding a card, drawing 2, you're still up on cards, as opposed to airmailing and you're just drawing 1. You get to see more stuff from your deck. I'm not entirely convinced that it's better in Standard, but in Expanded, where you have Winona to be able to search this out, this is going to help a ton for what were the Pidgeotto decks, but now can become this, because this gets around Power Plant, and there's Execute and stuff you can use with this, so Cincino in those kinds of decks becomes a monster. But this can definitely be a new Octillery style card for any kind of deck that just wants to see more cards in it, and just as a stage 1, there's a lot of support that's going to help you to find this card in your deck. So Cincino, just being able to allow you to see so much of your deck, and then in a pinch get energies out of your discard pile onto an attacker, do a little bit of chip damage here and there, puts it at number 10 on the list. Coming in at number 9 is our first VMAX Pokemon on the list, and that is Snorlax VMAX. This is a 340 HP colorless Pokemon that does give up 3 prizes, but 340 HP is insane. It's just so much HP. There's nothing that's getting even close to one-shotting this. And in Standard, we have buff padding also, so you can make this have even more HP. It's absolutely absurd how much HP this thing has. And the attack isn't too bad either. For 3 colorless, you can use G-Max Fall, which does 60 damage plus 30 more damage for each of your benched Pokemon. So if you've played any Expanded at any point, Mega Rayquaza was a very strong deck for a long time until Sudowoodo got printed. Then Zoroark still dominates loads of Expanded tournaments, and Snorlax is just going to be the newest of those, being able to do so much damage so easily. Triple Acceleration Energy powers up this attack in one shot, but maybe there's also a version that could play Welder and Fire Energy. But just being able to use one energy attachment for 210 damage if your bench is full without any other modifiers is just truly wild. And in Expanded, where you have Skyfield, this can get to one-shot territory on other stuff really fast. In fact, the only thing that's probably able to one-shot a Snorlax very easy is another Snorlax. Oh no, you can't even do it, because if you have 8 bench Pokemon in play, you do 240, plus 60 is 300, so you still can't even knock out a Snorlax VMAX. So if that shows anything, it's just that this Pokemon has an absurd amount of HP. It does give up 3 prizes, just like all of the tag teams do currently, but that doesn't seem to be a huge issue, as those decks are still seeing lots of play. So Snorlax VMAX can be a very easy contender into Standard playability and Expanded potentially, just because it can do so much damage and has so much HP. One of the strongest attacking threats that we've seen in a long time. So Snorlax VMAX comes in at number 9 on the list. Coming in at number 8 is one of the pre-release promos that we got for the set, but it's also just in the regular set. This is Frostmoth. Frostmoth is a 90 HP stage 1 Pokemon that with the ability Ice Dance. As often as you like during your turn, you may attach a water energy card from your hand to one of your benched water Pokemon. And then it has the attack Aurora Beam for water colorless that does 30 damage. We are not here to talk about that attack. We are here to talk about Ice Dance. Ice Dance is insanely powerful, and it also can be paired with Lapras VMAX, which Frostmoth is definitely more the all-star here. But Lapras VMAX, 320 HP VMAX, gives up 3 prizes, and then for 3 colorless, you have G-Max Pump, which does 90 damage, plus 30 more damage for each water energy attached to this Pokemon. So, a glorified Secret Sword attack, very strong, especially with the Frostmoth ability powering that up. Frostmoth can really change how the Argistois deck is played and Expanded. Argistois has been a very strong deck for a long time that relies on using the Archie combo to get a Blastoise into play, and that deck can really fall apart whenever it doesn't get a Blastoise into play with Archies. So now with the turn 1 rule in Expanded being that you cannot play a supporter on your first turn, being able to just bench Snoms and then on your next turn evolve into Frostmoth effectively does the same thing of getting a turn 2 Blastoise into play because you couldn't play supporter, while also you no longer have to fill your deck with clunky cards to try to get this Archie combo off, because Frostmoth can just put all the energy into play as much as you like. So Frostmoth seems very strong. I think that the fact that they can only be attached to one of your benched Pokemon is not as big as a restriction as people are giving it credit for. You can't put this onto something like a Mewtwo and Mew GX, which is what the Archistois decks were doing right now in Expanded, to varying amounts of success. but Frostmoth still just looks like an insane player in most likely both standard and expanded. Every single water card that gets printed is now going to have to be evaluated with Frostmoth along its side as something that can potentially power it up. So with that being said, Frostmoth puts itself at number 8 on the list. Coming in at number 7 on our list is Aurora Energy. Aurora Energy is a new special energy that I'm surprised they finally got around to printing. This is an effect that I feel like would have came out a while ago. It says you can attach this card to one of your Pokemon only if you discard another card from your hand. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides every type of energy, but provides only one energy at a time. So Aurora Energy becomes, I would say, the new default special energy for every deck to play that wants to play this kind of effect. In the Mew 3 decks that are seeing play in Standard, this immediately replaces Rainbow Energy as a way to not just attach and have a rainbow type effect, but you also get to discard a card, which means that you can discard any one of your attackers that you want to use off of the Aurora Energy. And so that makes this very good. This also plays out, I would say, very dumb and expanded with Execute, where you just have a rainbow that you can attach to any of your Pokemon and then just discard and execute too, so you can always have that resource. So there's not even a downside for this card. This card just comes inherently very powerful. There are also random Arceus Dialga Palkia decks in Standard that are playing Rainbow Energies. There was an ADP Bird Trio deck. There was an ADP Buzzwole deck that went around. Currently, I've seen a few ADP decks playing Fairy Energies and then Mimikyu to copy stuff for the mirror. This card's definitely going to be able to benefit those decks a lot. But I think the main thing that puts Aurora Energy on this list, outside of all of the things we've mentioned now, is that I don't know if they can print a special energy card that's better than this, that just doesn't even have, like, I feel like the only thing better than this would be just a special energy that had just a rainbow energy and didn't even have a punishment. Like, I feel like discarding a card is not a big deal in a format where we have Dedenne and soon Professor's Research when this set comes out as well. So Aurora Energy just going to be, I think, the strongest special energy that has been printed in a very long time, and at least in terms of rainbow effects. And so with all of those things, Aurora Energy gets to number 7 on the list. Coming in at number 6 on the list is Metal Saucer. I don't know why this is not Metal Patch, but it's Metal Saucer. It says attach a Metal Energy card from your discard pile to one of your benched Metal Pokemon. We've seen Dark Patch be super successful with Darkrai and with Yveltal. We've seen Aqua Patch to relative success with different Water Box variants. And now we have Metal Patch, and this is just going to be the next one of that effect that I would say dominate Standard. Metal Saucer enables a few different things outside of just Zacian and Zamazenta, which we'll talk a little bit more about one of those later. Metal Saucer can power up Lucario and Melmetal GX to allow that deck to have more acceleration than it previously had, so you have much stronger ways to use that attack. There's also a Scizor GX in Standard that this could kind of be the energy acceleration that deck needs. Metal Patch just gives the ADP decks with Metal Pokemon and a bunch of other stuff more ways to put energy onto the table. And then obviously with Zacian V as an insane partner, you can just do huge amounts of damage with Metal Patch. So another patch comes in, another patch is excellent. It feels like not even too long ago that we were reviewing Aqua Patch on this channel, and now Metal Patch is here, and it's just going to be very good in both formats once again. So get them as soon as they come out. It's going to be strong. So Metal Saucer, sorry to keep saying Metal Patch, that's just going to be instinctive for a very long time, comes in at number 6 on the list. Coming in at number 5 on this list, and this is not a card that I think that a lot of people would expect, but this is a sleeper card that a lot of people have been talking about online if you've been lurking on Twitter or whatnot. It is this Oranguru from this set. It is a basic with 120 HP, very interesting art where it's just like staring at you and it doesn't really have a shadow, but its ability, Primate Wisdom, is what we are here to talk about. Once during your turn, you may switch a card from your hand with the top card of your deck. So essentially, if you don't like your hand at base value, you can get rid of a card from your hand to draw the next card on your deck. You're going to draw that card at the start of your next turn, but it maybe would help you find a supporter during the turn that you need it, or just enable you to kind of see some more cards to have more options. There are 2 main combos that this card is being talked about with, and that's Zacian V and Magcargo GX. So Zacian V has an ability that we're going to talk more about this card later. It's crazy. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 3 cards of your deck and attach any number of Metal Energy cards there to this Pokemon. So, when you use this ability, you can put a Metal Energy on top of your deck with the Oranguru, and then you can use Intrepid Sword on Zacian and put the energy right onto Zacian so you know that you're going to hit an energy. Put the other cards into your hand. If you use this ability, your turn ends, but that just guarantees an attachment on Zacian, especially with the new turn 1 no supporter rule. That's going to be very good to use. But then also, Magcargo GX has an ability that you can look at the top card of your deck. So if it's a basic energy, you can attach it to one of your Pokemon. With the Oranguru out, you put a fire energy into your hand, maybe off of a Giant Hearth or a Viridian Forest. Then you put it on top of your deck, draw another card, and then you use this Magcargo, and bam, you put another energy in play. So this turns Magcargo and Oranguru into like a pseudo Max Elixir combination, which ends up being very strong. So decks just have this energy acceleration that's really splashable into whatever effect they want to use. This Oranguru just has a lot of different features that at its worst, it's letting you see more cards. At its best, it's netting you extra energy attachments, and it's just going to be really strong as we go. So all of those factors put Oranguru at number 5 on the list. Coming in at number 4 on the list is the new supporter Marnie from this set. Marnie says each player shuffles their hand and puts it on the bottom of their deck. I'm going to stress this. You put your hand on the bottom of your deck. This is me saving you from getting a game loss. Put it on the bottom of your deck. If either player put any cards on the bottom of their deck in this way, you draw 5 cards and your opponent draws 4 cards. I think this card is being really underevaluated by a lot of people because this turns into a judge for your opponent, but a Shauna for yourself, which neither of those cards is really great enough to play them on their own. But if you told me that there was a Shauna that I could also N you to 4, I would play that in a heartbeat. Or if you told me that there was a judge, but then you got to draw 5, I would snap play that. This is not either of those effects because you have to shuffle your hand and put it on the bottom of your deck, but it's still very strong. In this format where we have a lot of greens decks that just kind of want to stockpile cards in their hand until they can get a big assembly of things to use, this can be very good to disrupt them while they're trying to pull off that combo. Also, with the new turn 1 no supporter rule, if you play this going second on your first turn, your opponent didn't get to play a supporter, and then they went down to a hand of 4 cards, plus the card they draw for their turn. So this can just be really effective disruption on its own. And so Marnie just becomes this very strong, it's not even a full control card, it's just a good effect to have lying around that's going to allow you to just play a supporter while also messing them up. So Reset Stamp sees a lot of play now, and I think this is going to see play in addition to that, just as more ways to control what your opponent has in their hand. So with all that said, Marnie ends up at number 4 on the list. Coming in at number 3 on the list, and this is going to be relatively boring, is Professor's Research, Professor's Magnolia. It is a supporter that says, discard your hand and draw 7 cards. Discard your hand, draw 7 has just been a staple in so many decks for as long as it's been in Standard. I can only think of a few decks that did not play Juniper or Sycamore when they were around, and I can think of a few now that I don't think are going to play this card. But this just becomes one of the best supporters that you can play in any deck, if not the single-handed best supporter. It is going to be a little bit worse in theory because you can't play a supporter on your first turn, but that's not going to be anything stopping this card from seeing play. There's just really not a whole lot to say about it. Discard your hand, draw 7 is just such a powerful effect, and so I think that in my head, I'm looking to put this into decks like Pikarom or some of the big tag team decks. I think this is very good. In the Lapras Frostmoth deck, this is probably good just because you can discard, or you can put all your water energies into play and then discard your hand and just keep going. So this card just becomes super solid. It's not even worth thinking too hard about it. Discard, draw 7 has just been the best supporter, frankly, around for a very long time. And some people are good to see it back. Some people are agonizing its return, but it's going to be good. It's going to be played, and you're probably going to play it. So Professor's Research comes in at number 3 on the list. Coming in at number 2, that we already talked about this card a little bit, it is Zacian V. Zacian V is a 220 HP metal Pokemon that is a Pokemon V, so it gives up 2 prizes when it's knocked out. And it has the ability Intrepid Sword. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 3 cards of your deck and attach any number of Metal Energy cards you find there to this Pokemon. You don't have to reveal the cards, you just look at them. Put the other cards into your hand. If you use this ability, your turn ends. Then you have Metal, 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 Brave Blade, 230. This attack cost would be hard to power up, but with Metal Patch and Intrepid Sword, it's better. And so you do 230, and then during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. Remember that effects like this reset to the bench, so if you played a Switch and then you have an Skateboard Pokemon, you are good to use this attack again. So Zacian V is just the new, big, basic, all-star, huge damage Pokemon that can just be powered up so quick. Using this ability on the first turn of the game, where you cannot play a supporter, means that at your worst, you're drawing 3 cards, which is very good, but at your best, you're able to accelerate energy onto Zacian, and you don't need to hit more than 1 energy for this ability to already do what you want it to do. If you attach to it turn 1, then you use the ability and you hit 1 energy, you can attach to it turn 2, and you're already using the attack without having to play any of your metal saucers. So this card just becomes insane. The biggest thing that people are talking about this with is ADP, because you can put metal energies onto here, energy switch, move them around. You can use ultimate ray to put them onto here. The math for Zacian actually works out really well in a format like Expanded also, because you have choice bands. There's the new Galarian Berserker, which makes all your metal Pokemon do 20 damage more. So you can really make this damage ramp up fast to knock out some of the tag teams that are very prominent in that format. In Standard, if you wanted to go really hard and then use Altered Creation and then have a Berserker, you could do 280 damage and knock out a lot of the tag teams, but frankly, I don't think that's the direction I'm going with this card. This just becomes get as many energy on the table as possible, use this ability a few times. This works great with dolls, and that's even a whole nother direction of this card, so I'll get to that in a minute. But you can set up a doll, use this ability while you power up, the doll gets knocked out, they don't take a prize, set up another one, do it again. You can just put a ton of energy into play with this. But the access of this card that a lot of people are not talking about is how good this card is in like a stall control deck. They're normally just passing to end their turn, or they're using Munchlax, or they're using Tropical Beach and Expanded. So this just becomes a draw 3 for all of those stall decks that are just going to pass anyway. You might as well just draw the 3 cards. And then having 220 HP on its own is not a lot, or it's not a little to scoff at. As the damage does go up, this could be knocked out easier, but 220 HP is still probably getting 2-shot. So I think this will be really effective overall for those kinds of decks. But every piece of this is just super strong. You have a great attack, a great ability that lets you draw cards if you don't hit energy. 2 retreat, so you can use Air Balloon to retreat to another one, which is a card that we didn't talk about, but it's strong. So just so many different pieces of this card, everything that I just said. I'll put it at number 2 on the list. And coming in at number 1 are 2 relatively boring includes, but we put them together for certain reasons that make sense. We have Quick Ball and Evolution Incense. Quick Ball is a new item card that you can discard a card from your hand to search your deck for a basic, reveal it, and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. And then Evolution Incense just says search your deck for an evolution Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. These cards come to number 1 on the list just because they're the best item search that I think that we've probably ever gotten for basics and evolutions respectively. Quick Ball, being able to get basics on your first turn while you can't play a supporter, namely Deandre, will allow you to draw more cards, but even just getting a Zacian and then drawing cards with this ability will be very good. Mewtwo is looking at Quick Ball as a new way to discard Pokemon and then get a Mew 3 or a Deandre to put onto the table. And then Evolutionary Incense is going to be used in every single evolution deck. If you think about Timer Ball, which saw a ton of play, Timer Ball you played just to get 1 heads. There's never really a time that you played it and you needed specifically 2 heads unless you were going to fall super behind if you didn't. And we even played a card that 25% of the time didn't even get you the evolution that you wanted. So Evolution Incense just immediately replaces that card because you get 1 evolution 100% of the time. Better than Evo Soda 2 because you can thin out your deck by getting an evolution that you want. So Quick Ball and Evolution Incense are going to be, in my head, some of the most important cards to get a few of. They are both just uncommons as far as I know, though Quick Ball does have a secret rare if that's your cup of tea. So get your play sets of those because they're going to go in every single deck that you play. If it's a basic deck, you'll just play Quick Ball. Evolution Incense is worded in a way that you can get a VMAX Pokemon, which is really important because VMAXs They're not stage 1s or stage 2s. Their VMAXs are kind of their own separate thing. But it's still an evolution Pokemon, so you can get something with that. Both of these cards just very strong, and they cap the list at number 1. But that is the top 10 for Sword and Shield. I'm super excited for this set. I think the rule change is going to be interesting. Not necessarily sure if it's good or bad, but really excited to see how it changes deck building. And I think a lot of these cards will overperform in both standard and expanded. So really great stuff coming from this era. Go ahead and put in the comments if you think these were the cards that you expected to make the top 10. Did you expect the cards to be in a different order? What were your thoughts? Let us know. And remember, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, all the good stuff. The most exciting thing recently is that we just started a patron-exclusive Discord server, so you can talk to all of us on the Discord about different stuff. But thank you guys for supporting this video. Like it if you enjoyed it. Go ahead and share it on your social medias and whatnot. This is Xander Bennett signing out.